classroom, or in old language a couple thousand years ago, disciples, those who are trying to prepare themselves for entry into the evolutionary level above human, synonymous with the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. We're going to talk to you about the most urgent thing that is on our mind, and what we suspect is the most urgent thing on the minds of those who will connect with us. We'll title this tape Planet Earth About to be Recycled. Your only chance to evacuate is to leave with us. Planet Earth about to be recycled. Your only chance to survive or evacuate is to leave with us. Now, that's a pretty major statement, pretty bold in terms of religion, in terms of anybody's intelligent thinking. To most people who would consider themselves intelligent beings, they'd say, well, that's absurd. What's all this doomsday stuff? What's all this prophetic stuff? You know, intelligent human beings should realize that everything has their cycle. They have their season. They have their beginning. They have their end. They have cycles. We're not saying that planet Earth is coming to an end. We're saying that planet Earth is about to be refurbished, spaded under, and have another chance to serve as a garden for another human civilization. Now, the reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization, because it's about to be recycled, but because of where that finds us, where that finds you, where that finds those who would judge us, how we would speak of them and how they would speak of us. Now, you keep saying us. Who do you think you are? Well, I, in all honesty, must acknowledge my father. My father is not a human father. My father is a member of the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. My father gave me, long before this civilization, gave me birth into that kingdom level above human, that kingdom of heaven, that kingdom of God. Now you can say, well, I can't believe that. Well, it's up to you whether you believe that or not. That's not important to me, even though I wish that you could believe it for your sake. For those who do believe it, stand a possibility of a future beyond this recycling time. Now you say, well, according to religious literature, I thought there was someone else that was going to come and be our Savior here at these end days, that was going to be Christ's return. Well, the name Christ might be a little confusing, or the name Jesus, because the name Jesus, of course, was the name given to the body that mind that was indeed from the kingdom of heaven came. And that mind was here 2,000 years ago, and that mind came for the express purpose of teaching humans how they could be saved, how they would not be plowed under at the end of the age. Well, we're at the end of the age. So the one, or the mind that was in Jesus, what? That mind is in me? You'll have to decide that for yourself. I must admit that I am here again, that I'm here saying exactly the same thing that I said then, trying to say it in today's language, trying to hope that for your sakes you can see what we have to offer you, for our Father offers you life. I'm not talking about human life. If planet is about to be recycled, And we see the planet as a stepping stone. Planet Earth, a stepping stone. That just as within a civilization evolves upward, that each segment of civilization becomes more civilized, less barbaric in some ways. It's supposed to, not that it necessarily does. Sometimes it seems to appear to be more civilized when in fact it becomes more barbaric, more quick to condemn the rest of the world, more quick to kill the rest of the world that does not think as it thinks. Well, I know what I just said. I said that I am the return of the Son of my Father. I'll tell you something that's even more remarkable. My Father came with me this time. Came in the early 70s, took on a human form, an adult human form, helped me get in an adult human form in the early 70s, and we together helped those who came with us that were also here 2,000 years ago get in the bodies that they were wearing so that they could rid themselves of human behavior, human activity, human thinking, so that they could be ready to move into the kingdom of heaven or the evolutionary level above human. These that are sitting before me have been students of T and Do. T, my father, have been students of T and Do, are still students of T and Do, even though T returned to the heavens in 1985. And T is my heavenly Father, gave me birth into that kingdom before this civilization began. Now, I'm not here to sell you on that, or who I am, or who these are. I'm here to offer you, as these are, an opportunity to know the truth so that if you can connect with it at any level, then you might survive the respading or the recycling that is about to occur. We made a tape just shortly ago, and in that tape we said that there are 3 types of individuals that will survive the recycling. One type of individual is those individuals that have overcome their humanness enough that when the end of this age is complete, when the war is over, the spading complete, there's nothing left here except for recycling. When the end of that occurs, then they have reached a condition of having overcome human behavior, human thinking, human desires, desiring only to be in the kingdom of heaven, in the evolutionary level above human, being service in that kingdom. When they have done that to the degree that they are a match for a physical body belonging to that kingdom. Because humans think that this is a flesh body world, and it is. It's a flesh body world. But it's more importantly a human flesh body world. The kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, the evolutionary level above human, is also, they have bodies. I wouldn't say flesh bodies because it's different characteristics. But it's a physical body, and it's equivalent for that evolutionary level to a human body. It doesn't need the kind of fuel that humans would need. It's not a mammalian body. It doesn't reproduce. It's not male nor female. It probably would look like what you might consider a very attractive extraterrestrial. Now, most of the illustrations of extraterrestrials these days have been grotesque, looked like giant insects or slimy reptilians or eyes so big that you could fall into them. And an extraterrestrial that we say is a genuine extraterrestrial is not a fallen angel, is not a space alien. We see fallen angels and space aliens as synonymous. Fallen angels and space aliens as synonymous. And that the next level, the only real extraterrestrials, have a body similar to human body. Human body was taken after the same design, the same form, except a human body was more animal than that form. Human has hair, needs teeth, has physical characteristics that are appropriate to this environment. When you go into an environment that does not need to eat things that you have to pull off the bone or crack the seeds off the nut, then certainly teeth are not needed. Hair is not needed. A creature that looks very attractive but has 2 eyes, some remnant of a nose, some remnant of ears, what you would call remnant, even though they function very well as a nose, as ears, have a voice box but don't really need to use it because they communicate in thought. They communicate with their minds. And that's an extraterrestrial. That is the body belonging to a member of the evolutionary level above human, the kingdom of heaven, the kingdom of God. That can seem unattractive to you if you're really into flesh bodies. You know, there are sayings that there's seed of flesh, or there are things that are born of flesh, and then there are things that are born of spirit, or born of water, is synonymous with being born of flesh. If people really understood the religious literature and could read it as it was intended to be read, they would know that it was written to describe that flesh, seed of flesh, was seed of the negative, the opposition, the space aliens, the fallen angels. Therefore, to the next level, human flesh is of the lower forces, of the kingdom level beneath the kingdom of God, of the stepping stone that could lead to the kingdom of heaven. So flesh, or human flesh, now that isn't to put you down and to say if you're wearing a human vehicle. I'm wearing a human vehicle because I have to wear one for this task. I don't like it. It doesn't match me. And those who sit in front of me, they don't like their human vehicles that they have to wear for this task, but they have to wear them because the task of overcoming the human kingdom requires that they overcome flesh, the genetic vibrations, the lust of the flesh, the desire to reproduce, the desire to cling to offspring or spouse or parents or house or money or fame or job or that could go on and on. Overcoming the human flesh and its desires, even its religious desires. There is not a religion on the face of the globe that is of God as it is today. All of those things that are called religions are ruined records of man's relationship with someone from the evolutionary level above human or the kingdom of God. In other words, it's like the religious literature is written as a time manual, so that ancient religious literature was appropriate to that phase of civilization, less ancient literature was appropriate to that particular age. Then when someone came as a Messiah, then that was appropriate to that time. What did the Lord that was here long before the Messiah came? The Lord said, I will send a Messiah. knowing that you will reach a condition, humans will reach a condition where they can move up into my kingdom, and I will send my Son as that Savior to help you know how to get out of the human kingdom. Well, that Savior came, that Messiah came, and he said, I'll come again. And his Father sent him again. And yet, to say that is to be so blasphemous. In other words, what I say to you now is direct, present, current transmission information from the kingdom level above human, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, and of my Father. Christians say they're Christians, and yet Christians don't quote what Jesus said. Jesus said, if you want to know my Father, if you want to move in my Father's kingdom, then shed everything of this world, leave everything behind, and come and follow me. And unless you hate everything of this world, your sister, your mother, your brother, everything of this world, you will not know the kingdom of heaven. You have to graft to me. You have to cling to me. I will take you to my Father's house. And yet Christians world over quote Paul, who never sat with that representative, who was never a student of that representative. They say, oh, I love Jesus. He's in my heart. I'm filled with Jesus. Jesus wants me to live an abundant human life. He wants me to have riches. He wants me to have more children so that I can bring them up in the Christian family values. I don't remember Jesus ever saying that what I want you to do is go get married, have families, have children, and together bring all of them, and I will take them into the kingdom of heaven. He only spoke to individuals that said the only way out of here is for you to know that as an individual, that environment is not for you. That tie that binds you to the human kingdom is not for you. If you know it is not for you, then come to me, and my Father will feed me information that can nourish you and help you overcome this world, and will leave this world and will go to my Father's kingdom. Remember, we're not talking about a spiritual kingdom. No clouds, no harps, even though we are talking about in the heavens. But the heavens are no more spiritual than when you go out at night and look at the heavenly bodies and see them. They are there. They are physical. They even move in spacecrafts. Even my Father's kingdom moves in spacecrafts. You could say, oh my goodness, that's outrageous. Well, you don't like the illustrations of chariot of fire, you don't like the illustrations that are in your religious literature that tells of spacecrafts of my Father's kingdom. Cloud of light, they didn't know what else to call it. Even when they saw angels that they said had wings, how else can they say? They might as well said they fly. That didn't necessarily mean they had feathers on their back. It could mean that they came in a flying object, and they came out of that flying object, and that Jesus, when they saw him ascend, he went up into that cloud of light. Now, I'm not trying to make a deal out of a piece of transportation, but a craft belonging to the level above human is much more than a piece of transportation. It is a workstation. It is a place of service to the level above human. These that are leaving this kingdom level to go with me to my Father's kingdom, to my Father's house, these will not go into houses on some planet like Earth and reproduce and have families and sit and watch television and make scrambled eggs. They're going to be in service for whatever need the level above human, the kingdom of heaven, has for them. And the tools they use, the workstations that they use, are spacecrafts, all sizes. Spacecrafts that are so small that a very small crew could fit in them because of the task that requires a small spacecraft. Spacecrafts that are so large you can't even see the outer extremities of them. They would look like something larger than a planet because the station requires that for whatever laboratory work or experimentation is going on, whatever their work is in that kingdom. How can they be effective servants in that kingdom if they're worried about their children or their dogs or their horses or their cats, or how much time they have to put in at the Rotary or different clubs or organizations? As individuals, they serve one individual, and that is the representative of that level, that is their chief, that is over them for their assigned task. Just as in the task that we're in now with this classroom, these look to me for everything. I look to my older member to fill me in on what their needs are and how I might be used to supply their needs. I'm not just talking about their physical needs, but their mental needs, how they can make their change from human into the kingdom level above human. Now, this is not to say that we know that there is a guarantee that we will all together go on board a craft in order to leave before the spading under occurs. We will go definitely on board a craft to leave when the spading occurs. You can say, well, what's the difference? Well, the difference is we don't know if we're going to take these flesh bodies on board that craft or if we'll leave these flesh bodies behind. We don't believe that our Father's kingdom has much need for these flesh bodies, but it's possible that a spacecraft will come down and we'll walk on board that craft, and they'll take these bodies from us and issue us the ones that belong to that level so that we might begin service. Or it is also possible that part of our test of faith is our hating this world, even our flesh body, enough to be willing to leave it without any proof other than what we have come to know, that we have nothing to fear, that we are in good keeping, that we can leave the body that we're in, whether it's by martyrdom because someone went crazy over our righteous blasphemy, or whatever might happen to the body that we wear, and that we might lose it. We do know one thing: we don't care to cling to the life of this body until it naturally gives up. We don't care to be aborted by the body that we're wearing. We care more to abort it in proof to our Heavenly Father that we're ready to leave this place. We're ready to go into your kingdom. And these students, have to say to my Father, we trust your Son. We trust the one you sent. Even so much that we have no hesitation to leave this place, to leave the body that we have. And we know that whatever happens to us after we leave this body is a step forward from what we have, and that we don't care to be here. Earlier in this tape, I spoke to you of 3 types of individuals that can be salvaged from this respading. One was, I mentioned, those that have overcome enough that they will get an issue of a physical body belonging to the next level and go into service as a crew member working for the next level. A second type of individual that can be salvaged from this planet at this time are those who don't quite reach that point of overcoming when it is time to leave, but are still faithful to the best of their ability in their effort of breaking away and leaving their humanity and looking to us, looking to me, looking to my Father, looking to the next level to give them the strength and the understanding of how they can break away more quickly. So wherever they are, to the best of their capability at the time of our exit, whether it is not ready for issue of a next level body, they may have to experience a time in a civilization that is yet to come and do more overcoming of human kingdom, but they will be in the keeping of the kingdom level above human, just as these have been in the keeping of the kingdom level above human, not only here at this time in this generation with me and with T. That T isn't T's name, by the way. Do isn't Do's name. I'm not even given to tell you what my name is, or T's name. T doesn't want you to know it. Okay. I had to put that in there, but just so that you would understand. Okay, the second type of individual that can go into the kingdom of heaven is that one at the time that we leave has not completed that, and therefore the next level brings them back when a civilization is at the point where they can move in and pick up where they left off and do more overcoming, so that they will reach issue time by the end of the next civilization that they have overcoming to do in. The third type of soul or individual that can go to the kingdom of heaven now with us and be in the keeping of that kingdom are those who even hear our voice right at the end, or even receive this information and don't know where it's coming from. In other words, some might hear our voice and might know that where it is coming from, might know that I exist in physical form here about to leave. Others might not know that I do. But something tells them, I've got to break away. I can't stand to stay here. I've got to go to that kingdom level. So that's three types that can go, that can be saved, that will not need to experience recycling. Even that faith that would have them willing to leave, desiring to leave, trusting in that information. Those who actually know me have more serious time of test than those who believe this information and don't know me. The lower forces, once you see me in this vehicle, the forces of Lucifer, of Satan, the lower forces of this planet, that run this planet, by the way, those forces would do anything they can to keep these from succeeding with their task, to keep number two example of those that can go from succeeding in their task, and would do anything to keep even an initial believer from believing. Their whole effort, the lower forces' whole effort, is to have us not succeed in leaving and being in the keeping of the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. So, here we are. We're coming public with this information that we're about to leave. And this is like putting ourselves right out on the playing field so that the lower forces have a chance to try to do to us what they can do to us. It also will challenge all those who are religious minded to look at us and say, is that the truth or is that not the truth? Is that Antichrist or the spurious Messiah? Spurious Messiah is the term that some prominent television, satellite ministries use in describing the Antichrist. Now, the Antichrist, according to what they say, is coming before Christ comes. So that's, since he's not really on the scene, they say, then that means that Christ's second return has not really occurred. Well, I hate to tell you, but the Antichrist, the spurious Messiah, has been on the scene ever since my father and I left 2,000 years ago. And they have worked as hard as they could work through religions, through governments, through morality, through responsibility as human, to brainwash humans to expect heaven on earth, not to look to go to the kingdom of heaven, but to look for a heaven on earth, to work toward the future, to be preoccupied with replicating or reproducing children and laying aside enough money to take care of those children so that they will have a future, and they will have a future, and they will have a future in what? The human kingdom. To the next level, the human kingdom is nothing but a stepping stone. Anyone who wants to stay in the human kingdom and make it some sort of divinity is looking to some spurious Messiah, some Antichrist. And I know that those that are waiting for the spurious Messiah, the Antichrist, if they become aware of this tape and of Doe sitting here saying what I'm saying now, they'll say, that's the one. Because I warned you that the spurious Messiah would say, I'll take you out of here. I'll rapture you into my Father's kingdom. And that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that if you can believe my Father's information, if you can believe the truth that we share with you, and if you believe it enough that you can put your trust in me, and that's a big dose. That's a difficult task, to trust me. You do not know me well enough to trust me. I understand that. These know me. You don't know me. We have a website now. You know, it's the popular thing. Everybody has to have a website. We have a website on the internet called Heaven's Gate. Heaven's Gate, of course, .com. Everything is .com. We're not .org, we're .com. So if you want to learn more about who we are, what we have to say, what I have to say, what my older member can share with you through what we have said and know of our history, we have nothing to hide. Even though to you we are a dangerous cult. We understand that. Why dangerous? Because we threaten the family. We threaten the established norm of family values. If you knew Jesus 2,000 years ago, you would know that exactly the same thing occurred. And that the reason for getting rid of him was because if people really began to follow him to any significant degree, it's a political danger. It's against what the mainstream was teaching, what the norm was in the governments or the family, and certainly against the religion of that time. Religion today is an interesting thing, because remember how we said a moment ago that the religious literature like the Bible, the Quran, the Torah, these are time manuals. These are in the time that something was written as the Lord or as God related to man, it was appropriate for them at that time. And yet we have the bulk, if not the vast majority of humans on the planet today who are very religious, living exactly as they were trying to live some 5,000 years ago, some 4,000 years ago. They never made it to 2,000. 2,000 years ago was a chance to get out of here if you had listened to what the next level's representative had to say to you. But 2,000 years ago, that's a chance to get out of here requires everything of you, that you as an individual go join some cult, that you leave everything behind, that you ignore the members of your family, that you ignore the responsibility to your community, that you ignore your career, and that hearts will be broken. I don't mean to make light of that hearts will be broken. I know that hearts are broken. I also know that anyone that leaves to go to my Father's kingdom, that any heart that is broken in the process of that transition can easily be more than healed if that heart looks to my Father for healing, looks to my Father for understanding, does not need to see this as a terrible experience. Many times the worst things in the human kingdom that can happen to us end up being the best things that can happen to us, because we learn in-depth lessons because of those difficult times. Every life that was touched by these that are sitting in front of me, every life that was hurt or experienced pain by their leaving and becoming students of mine and of my Father's, was hurt, severely hurt. Some of them still hurt. They hurt because they choose to still hurt. They could actually say, "Thank you, God, for the lesson that is mine to learn in this experience." And as far as that individual that I used to call my son or daughter, or my husband or wife, I put them in your trust. I cannot tell them what they must do with their life. That is their decision. I cannot tell them what to do with their life. We cannot judge each other. I cannot judge you. I don't care to judge you. You will judge yourselves by what you do with what we have to say, by what you can accept and what you can't. It's almost better that you never see me or hear what we say, for that will put you to the test of whether or not you will condemn me, whether or not you will judge me. You cannot hurt me. You cannot hurt these. We do not judge you. It's funny that the world, the mainstream human world, is so quick to condemn and judge as if they were God Almighty. Those who judge them, I speak of. Judge them as if they were God Almighty, because they know that what they have done, if they've joined some cult, is the worst thing that they could possibly do, and they're being led down some wrong track into some spurious Messiah camp, and they're going to the devil. What is the devil like? Know your literature. What do the fallen angels feed on? What do they like? They like things of the flesh, of the human flesh, things of this world. What is told to you in all religious literature that you will find if you ever reach the kingdom of heaven? No males, no females, no children, no families, other than your relationship with God, your Lord. Your Lord is whichever member of his kingdom he has given to you, assigned to you as your helper, your instructor, your teacher. This is so simple that it sounds unreal. It's like it would be easier to accept if it were more spiritual, if it were more complicated, if it had more ritual with it, or more trappings of religion. In my Father's house, no incense is required, no flowing robes, no tingling bells, no genuflecting, no sitting in lotus position, no things of spirituality, even though it requires cleansing of the spirit. The spirit is the mind. It requires ridding ourselves of the mind of the human kingdom, ridding ourselves of the lusts of the human kingdom, of the binds of the human kingdom. Being filled with spirit is an interesting thing for you to think about. What happened when the illustration was made that Jesus was with John the Baptist, and was being baptized, and dove descended, and he was filled with the Holy Spirit. Filled with the Holy Spirit meant that Jesus' mind entered the body he was wearing to the degree that his human mind was no longer affecting him. He had aborted that human kingdom. He was filled with the mind of his Father. The mind of his Father is Holy Spirit. Any mind of the level above human is pure spirit, is Holy Spirit, being filled with the Spirit. Being filled with the Spirit is something that comes and knocks you down, makes you fall on the floor because somebody's trying to heal your broken knee. Is not. It's an abomination. It's anything but being filled with the Holy Spirit. You know, a soul is an interesting thing because my Father's kingdom plants souls, and souls become the great separator as they are planted. My Father's kingdom plants souls in many humans each time a representative of the kingdom level above human is to be incarnate on planet Earth. Plants many souls in human plants. Now they're really, even though they're planted in the flesh, because the flesh is what has to be overcome, they're really planted in the spirit. The spirit being the mind or the intelligence of that flesh, and then that soul is planted. And you can say, well, does that mean that everybody doesn't have a soul? That's what it means. But it does mean that anybody can have a soul that can believe in my Father, the reality of my Father, the reality of his kingdom. In other words, those who are given the responsibility and the task of planting those souls, plant them in all of the plants that have a potential of taking that stepping stone and out of the human kingdom and into that kingdom, because that soul is, as the separator, helps the individual in their mind and their spirit abort human thinking, human evaluation, human behavior, and replace it with the mind that they get from the representatives, the mind of the next level. Fill it up, fill it up, fill it up. When it is so filled and enough aborting of human mind has occurred, then that individual has come to viability, has come into bloom enough that that individual is ready to go to quartermaster when they leave this planet and be issued a body of service belonging to the kingdom of my Father. Even if, now let me say this, all human plants, even in their genetic structure, have a little bit of heavenly mind, or mind of the kingdom of God, mind of the evolutionary level above human. I have to say all of those each time I say it, just to remind you I'm talking about the same thing. Each plant, each human plant has a little bit of that mind in it. So theoretically, and this is true, that if there was a human listening to me that in fact may not at this moment have a soul, but that plant listened to me and said, could that be true, what that guy Doe is saying? I know it sounds crazy, but I wonder if that's true. Even that degree of curiosity would attract the mind of a crew assigned being sure that that separator is made available to that individual, so that that deposit of a soul could happen very, very quickly. They're not going to let it happen that any potential recipients of their kingdom not have the needed receptacle of spirit coming into full blossom as pure spirit, pure mind of the next level, what humans called Holy Spirit. I want to get back to the urgency. The urgency, you know, I don't know if you're aware that most literature of most religious scholars today say that the calendar that we use today, or that humans use today, is off by 4 years. And that Jesus was born in 4. Now, if Jesus was born in 4 and this is 96, then this is year 2000. This is the millennium. This is the beginning of the end. That's why we're talking. It is for us to surface with what we're surfacing with, we know challenges you to want to squelch us. It's interesting that we see the world as the anti-truth, the antichrist, the spurious Messiah. The world, those who want to stay in the world, will see us as anti-truth, antichrist, spurious Messiah. We're prepared for that. We know that that is inevitable at this time. That was inevitable 2,000 years ago. That's what got some guy strung on a cross. Remember, we said that that third type of person that can actually be salvaged at the end can be taken into the keeping of the next level because they believe in what we say, and that's as far as they got, is to believe. What happened to that individual on the cross beside Jesus who believed, and Jesus said, "This day thou shalt be with me in paradise"? He knew that he seriously believed, and that he knew that's all that it took, is for him to believe who he was. Even believing him in a condition when he was being killed as a heretic against the church, against the system. The church today certainly will see us as against the church. The church is not of God. The church was of God. The only church that there is today that is a live church is that which is connected with the present existence of the next level, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, a representative from that kingdom. And this is so exciting to us, even though we know that it is close to our end, and that is why it is exciting to us. Because we don't expect to or want to build a church on this planet. We don't want any Gothic cathedral. We don't want any membership roll. We don't want to help you reproduce so that we have more children to put on the Sunday school roll in the church. We are a group of believers in the kingdom level above human who want to leave and enter that kingdom and become of significant service. It does not mean that when in the human kingdom that a strong humanitarian drive is not a healthy thing, because really a strong humanitarian drive is to improve. But if you could only see that a human condition is a temporary condition, a stepping stone, an opportunity to get out of this kingdom, then you could accept that. This is as scientific, this is as true could be, but you have to know me. You have to trust me. You have to believe me. Some can know me now. Some can even know me for the first time when they see this tape and say, "I don't know what there is, but there's something in my head. It makes me know that fellow, and makes me know that what he's saying is true. And I may be wrong, but I'm going to try to find more out and see if that's what I need to be a part of, because I know that this place has become something that is not where I belong. It's funny that not funny, it's sad, that where a segment of my Father's kingdom, where even in particular my personal Heavenly Father related to a community that is today considered the Jewish community, and worked with them, preparing them for my presence here. And yet the Jewish community would certainly see me as anything but a representative of God. Even the Muslims, who are considered the enemy of the Judeo-Christians, the Muslims have a more real connection with God, still better behavior, still more restraint. You know, one of my students reminded me just today that they came in contact with a Muslim who said, look, you know, you people of the West have a wrong idea of what we are. That we don't praise Muhammad. We don't worship Muhammad. We consider Muhammad a prophet of many prophets. Many of the books of our literature are of Jesus. And I say, great is God more than 50 times a day, because God means so much to me. God means so much to them that they are usually more quick to be more modest in the clothing that they wear, more quick to be on guard against sensuality, things of this world, where God means more to them and they are willing to die for God more quickly and justify that frame of mind than a willingness to die for nation or die for world. So I'm not saying that Muslims are the ones that are going to inherit any more than anyone else. In the eyes of the kingdom of heaven, there's no such thing as race or color or religious background. It doesn't matter. None of it matters. If you came up with where the extent of your religious background was Star Trek, that in itself could be the best background you could have, if you could accept this as truth, if you could accept this as reality. This is a test time. You know, here's a little old bitty classroom. Some old fellow with prune face sitting here calling himself Doe, saying, I'm a representative of the kingdom of God. How can I believe that? If you have some of my Father's mind in you, you will have some of that recognition. Even though once you recognize me, the forces of this world will dive in with all their might to have you lose that recognition, to have you not trust me, to have you come to your senses and come back into the service of this world. I hope this tape session with you will be the beginning of our relationship. If this tape session is used to validate your seeing us as the spurious Messiah, the anti-God, the Antichrist, so be it. That's part of what we expect. That's part of the necessity of what comes at this time. It's the common thing for us to see each other as opposites of what we think we are. I'm so happy because my time is short here. If you come with us, your time is short here. When Jesus left 2,000 years ago, or the one who was in Jesus, or when I left 2,000 years ago, only a very short time after that, truth was significantly corrupted, so that no matter who tried to use that name of Jesus or of Christ or that religion. The information, seeing it as true, seeing it as real, referring to what had been said by what it takes to come into my kingdom, that fell apart, that deteriorated, that became unimportant. It's a miracle that it's still in the Gospels. It's still there. You'd be amazed. It's still there. When I'm gone this time, when we're gone, when we leave, when we go in, enter into my Father's spacecraft in order to go into service in His kingdom, very short time, if you have not by then been recycled, those who are still here, if you are permitted because of my Father's kingdom desire to have you stay a while longer, which I don't think is the case. If it were the case, the truth would deteriorate as fast as we depart. It would leave this atmosphere. I hope for your sake that you at least ponder this, that you go into the privacy of your closet. Don't ask your neighbors, your friends, what they think of this. You go see if you can connect with the purest, highest source that you might consider God and say, what about this? Is this for real? Is this for me? If it is, then give me the strength. Because as soon as you tell anyone else, they will be used as the instruments to have you not believe, to have you stay in this world and wait for heaven on earth. We hope to be of some service to you in this short time before our departure. And I say it's a very short time before our departure. So our thoughts will be of you. We hope that your thoughts will be of our Father's kingdom. Thank you. This is the 29th of September, 1996. I'm Doe. And Doe probably doesn't mean anything to many of you. To those that have heard of Doe, I might relate Doe to Tien Doe of UFO 2 or of a UFO cult that made some splash in the news 1975 and disappeared from the scene shortly after that. And some of you have heard some efforts that we have had to try to share a little bit of what we have learned with the public periodically between 1975 and now. We put out a statement called 88 Update in 1988, and we did a little videotape a little while after that. I think it was 91, 92, called Beyond Human. Now today is quite a different urgency. It's urgent to me, it's urgent to the students that sit before me. Our reason for speaking to you is because we feel urgently to warn you of what we are about to say. You know, to try to just put it as briefly as I can put it and as clearly as I can put it, this planet is about to be recycled, refurbished, started over. As far, not that doesn't mean it's going to be destroyed. It doesn't mean it's the end of the world, but it does mean that it's going to be recycled, refurbished. Now you can say, well, who are you to say that? And I'll tell you who I am. As to whether or not you believe who I am or not is up to you. And whether or not you believe that it's going to be recycled or refurbished is up to you. Now, the purpose of this tape is to warn you that that is about to happen, and that it's going to happen very soon. If I would title this tape, it would be Last Chance to Evacuate Planet Earth Before It is Recycled. Last chance to evacuate Earth before it is recycled. If you've read any of our teachings, the information that we have, you know that our discipline is strict, that we teach overcoming human ways, overcoming human addictions. The purpose of that is not for religious reasons or for morality or in order to become righteous. The purpose of that is to go to the heavens. Humans have some idea, because of what the negative forces have let them believe or have led them to believe. Humans have the idea that through religion, that if I live a good life, then I get to go to heaven when I die. And they don't know what heaven is, but they think that heaven is where God is, and heaven is where whoever the leader of their religion is, and they'll get to go be with them if they've lived a good life by whatever standard their religion was. The fact is that there is only one kingdom level, a kingdom level, just like there's a human kingdom. There's only one kingdom level above the human kingdom, and that kingdom level made the human kingdom and designed the planet, designed all of its resources, designed all of its life forms, designed humans, and designed humans even with the potential of leaving the human kingdom in order to go to the kingdom level above human. Now, the startling thing to many is that the kingdom above human is physical. There's some idea that the kingdom above human is spiritual, as if it's limited to being spiritual. It is spiritual in the sense that if you think of mind as synonymous with spirit, and you become something that identifies with your mind instead of the suit of clothes you wear, then it is spiritual, because that becomes your identity. Even if you're in the human world and humans identify with the mind that they have, or the spirit that they have, remember those two are synonymous. If they identify with that mind, then they don't think that they die when the body they're wearing drops. They think that they move into another world. And they move out of the body. Whether they move into another world depends upon whether they're connected or not, or what their information is, or what they are capable of knowing or doing, what they've been willing to learn. You know, the next level, or the evolutionary level above human, oops, I said that bad word, evolutionary level, because religious people think, ooh, evolution, does this mean that we don't believe in creation? That's the most ridiculous thing that someone could think, is that evolution is not a part of creation. That kingdom level created everything that is, or made everything that is, and among those things it made a number of things that advance in an evolutionary progression. So to speak of that level above, we shouldn't be afraid to use the word evolutionary level above. It's not really an evolutionary level above in that creatures here can advance to that kingdom level, because they can't. That sounds strange. Well, they can, but they can't on their own. The same evolutionary level that created the human kingdom has to come into the human kingdom and offer life to them, has to offer information to them, has to offer substance of mind to them, has to create, or if the recipient is thirsty enough for that mind, and that recipient then finds that they have found a source that is from that level, that is in their presence, physically in their presence. Don't forget, it's not a spiritual kingdom. It exists with an identity of mind or spirit, but it wears physical bodies. Do you look at the heavens at night, and why do you see physical bodies in the heavens? If it was a spiritual heaven, you wouldn't see any of those bodies. They would all be etheric. But you see those heavenly bodies. You see only a tiny, tiny fraction of those physical bodies in the kingdom of heaven. That doesn't mean that our Heavenly Father's kingdom, or the kingdom of God, or the evolutionary level above human is anything less because it has physical characteristics. It has all characteristics. Everything that you can talk about came from them, including evil, including the design of everything that can lead you to go astray by, if you listen to the wrong sources. You could say that couldn't possibly be true. There is nothing that was not created by the kingdom level above human. And the reason they created everything that there is, including negative options, is so that you could become exactly what you chose to become when you had the opportunity to become it. Now, the only time we have an opportunity to leave the human kingdom and go to the kingdom level above human is when there is a member from that kingdom level, incarnate in human form, taking that body and saying to you, I'll tell you about a kingdom level beyond here, and if you want to go there, then you have to follow me, because I'm the guy who's got the key at the moment. Whatever representative is sent from that kingdom level and comes into the human kingdom, then that's the representative that has that key to that kingdom for that period of time. And it requires that you, if you move into that evolutionary kingdom, that you leave behind everything of human ways, human behavior, human ignorance, human misinformation. Long time ago, long before this civilization began, and I don't know how many subsequent times this occurred, that kingdom level had a representative in a human civilization, and members of a classroom that were in the process of overcoming their human characteristics. Some of those members that began to serve in elementary ways for that kingdom level above human, some of them decided that they didn't want to listen to that representative anymore, that they could do the things they wanted to do, and they weren't sure they wanted to get rid of human ways. And so they began to find fault in the representative that was offering them a way out of the human kingdom. Well, you know the story from there. Fallen angels, Lucifer, Satan, a third of the heavens, following a renegade that decided, this world is not for me. I can be my own God. I don't need that kingdom level. I resent that I cannot be my own individual. I can't lead my own flock. Well, that kingdom level above human let that individual and their following lead their flock. Let them do what they wanted to do, and used it for means that could serve a purpose in the design of the next level progression. And that very evil presence is thick on this planet because it's the end of an age. It's so thick that it would not have you believe a word I say, and have you not accept anything that I tell you, so that you will not be a recipient of the kingdom they left, they got booted out of, and they want no one to go there. They don't think that it is the only kingdom level. They are resentful. They are in opposition to the real kingdom level above human. Don't forget, the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. Now, end of age, end of civilization, is the worst time for presences of that level. I mean, of those who, of the renegade level, those that were students of that level and went renegade. When you read in historical data that there was also a hell, and there is a hell, and the hell is where those evil forces are, you can imagine that part of that hell is planet Earth. When those evil individuals, or those who chose to go awry, those followers of Lucifer, of Satan, when they went awry, they were then booted out of the kingdom level above human and confined to not only planet Earth, but any other planet with this type of gravity and other environments that could serve as a natural environment for a human level. They need a human civilization. They use bodies from human civilization. They make hybrid bodies because they have to continue to live. Don't forget, they had learned what spirit was. They had learned to separate their mind, their spirit, from a human body, and their identity was not lost if they lost a body. They learned to move out of that body without losing their consciousness, even take another body that was prepared for them and invade that body and take it over, and they could sustain the life of it. And for the most part, as far as they are concerned, they are taking advantage of the plants, the human plants, the creatures of this civilization, using them for their own means. While the kingdom level above human is in close because of our presence, assisting us, and they are in close, those aliens, I call them aliens because one way you could speak of them is space aliens, evil space aliens. They're not really space aliens because they can't go in except a very limited part of space. They're confined to environments where there are mammalian, human equivalent, or human civilizations existing. They feed off of them. They need their bodies. So they're not really broad space aliens, but, you know, the common term is space alien. And I don't mind calling them space aliens. But because certainly the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, the evolutionary level above human, when they're present here, they certainly wouldn't be called aliens because this is their garden. They made it. We are their experiments. We are their creatures. We are their creations. They made us, everything that we are. Now, I've got to go back to the beginning of this tape because I don't want you to listen to my philosophy, my ideology, the knowledge that I have. I want you to be aware that the focus is on the fact that this is the end of the age. At the end of the age, the planet is wiped clean, refurbished, rejuvenated. The mess that the humans have made of it during the civilization that was on it, the mess they've made is cleaned up, it is healed. It's probably done on fast forward. It probably wouldn't take very long to do it by standards of human time. But even if it took 1,000 years to do it, that's a very brief time. We don't know how long it's going to take to do it. We can't estimate that because we're talking two different times anyhow. I mean, I'm trying to relate to you in human time, and yet I am more at home in relating to the time of the next level. But if this planet is about to be recycled, spaded under, refurbished, and the only ones that get to leave it are the ones who want to leave. The only ones who survive the recycling are the ones who want to leave, have found a guide, someone that can give them the information they need to leave, or give them the information that will eventually lead them to leaving. Now, what I mean by that is that during the time that we're here, and you know, here I am, I'm Doe of T and Doe, of the little religious UFO cult, and yet because that's what the world dubbed us. And yet T who is my father, who is my older member, who gave me birth in the kingdom of heaven long before this civilization. T was here with me on this particular mission. Now, let me describe this mission for a moment. T left in Earth time, 1985, because T had assisted enough that it was time to turn responsibility over to Doe, and for me then at that time to begin a more serious communication with my older member and to be dependent upon it and reliant upon it. Now, when T and I were awakening, because we entered this environment to any significant degree in the early 70s. We entered in the early 70s. You're looking at the body I'm wearing, you're saying, you're certainly more than 20-something years old. The body I'm wearing is, wow, 65 years old. Yes, the body is that old. I entered at the same time my older member entered, which was in the early 70s. Well, that doesn't make any sense. Whether I'm New Age or what, I'm not that I'm New Age, but whatever your belief is regarding reincarnation, you could think, well, I don't understand. Reincarnation occurs at the beginning of an infant's life. No, I'm sorry to say that's not accurate. A mind begins when that infant is born, and that genetic package that's in that infant begins to express itself as that mind develops. And it is a mind, it is a spirit. But then a spirit or a mind that had previously occupied another human plant but has gone into the spirit world, or is outside of a body because it lost its body from death or whatever, but is in the environment, can move in and take over that vehicle and be stronger than the mind that is the mind of that vehicle. In other words, it can invade that vehicle, it can take it over, it can pretty much keep the mind of that vehicle quiet and do what it wants to do with that vehicle. Now, the lower forces know this. They teach spirits to do this after they leave their bodies. They let them know that they're capable of doing that. You can say, you mean that you and T came into bodies in 72, so you're body snatchers, in a sense. Well, if the level above human made this garden and its design, made the human plants for their purposes, and my father sent T and my grandfather, T's father, sent us into this environment with a crew that had work to do, and yet we did come in and prep the vehicles. We actually took even this plant that I'm wearing, this vehicle that I'm wearing, and the plants of the crew, the classroom, the plant that T chose to wear, those were all set aside in a sense. A deposit of a little bit of information was put in those plants that set them aside for the time that the mind was to significantly come in. And therefore the mind that is now in here is almost like cannot relate to what that plant was prior to the time that it came in significantly. So who the plant was that I'm now wearing prior to the early 70s is just a fuzzy, dismal memory, because it's just like taking on a suit of clothes that had a history to it. And if I tried, I could invade some of that history and dredge it up, but it's so unattractive to me, and it's such a low vibration to me, if I can use that word without sounding New Age to some. But it's repulsive to me because it's certainly very human, because this vehicle certainly indulged in human behavior, human addictions, human ways, as every other human does. But when T and Doe were brought into this environment in the early 70s, a spacecraft brought us in. Remember, it's a physical world. Spacecraft brought us in, and actually we came in first and made deposits. Our little information deposits in our vehicles when they were infants. So that means we had to come in the 20s and 30s, and then we had to come in and make deposits in the vehicles of all the classroom that's sitting here in front of me. You know, several dozen individuals sitting here in front of me, their vehicles had to have little deposits made in them at the various times that those vehicles were infants. And now it's difficult to accept the information that I'm telling you. If you knew how to interpret some of the religious documents that have been left for you, you would interpret them exactly as I am telling you. But it's not popular to do that. The lower forces would have you interpret that information, those documents, entirely differently, because the lower forces, Satan, Lucifer, fallen angels, all of those that are against the real kingdom of God, they would have you not reach that kingdom. They are delighted to serve as your God. They will give you the things that will make you happy in this world. If you want to, you can praise their name and ask for riches, ask for anything that you want. They will give you the things that you want and make you feel good about it. It's even so popular today in religions that God wants you to live an abundant life. And so ask Him for what your needs are. He doesn't want you to be raggedy and poor. And of course, that's true. He doesn't. But that doesn't justify seeking a kingdom here instead of seeking His kingdom. You don't seek His kingdom unless you seek to get out of this kingdom. You can't have both. His kingdom is never going to coexist with the human kingdom. That's impossible. That's like the humans getting down on their all fours and existing with the dog kingdom and having an exchange there, and the humans staying and restricted to dog houses and restricted to dog food and restricted to dog behavior. It doesn't make any sense. Why would the kingdom that made the human kingdom find fulfillment in the human kingdom? Now, a remarkable thing exists, the most remarkable thing that you can possibly imagine, and that is their design was that they could make these little mental deposits in human plants. We'll call those deposits, for sake of understanding, we'll call them soul. And those little deposits are really just like a little bit of hardware or a little capacity for information. It's a storehouse for information. And in that little soul, there is a little bit of next level mind. And wherever that next level made those deposits in human plants of souls, there is a little bit of information in those souls, and that little bit of information can permit the person who has that soul to actually recognize the kind of information that I am passing to you now. Now, even as you listen to me, you might recognize it, but the lower forces and your genetic programming, everything says, oh, don't listen to that. Don't listen to that. That's horrible. That's the Antichrist, or that's not God as I know it. That's something altogether different. I'm afraid that what you have been listening to, I am not blaming you for listening to it. You hardly stood a chance. The lower forces, these forces have been so strong and have developed so strong that they have just brainwashed and kept totally intoxicated humans at every level around the globe, so that they're totally preoccupied with make money, put it in the bank, have more children, have more grandchildren, send them to college, leave all this so that they can have a future and they can have a future and they... What is that? That's extend human kingdom, extend human kingdom, extend human kingdom. Oh yes, we go to church once in a while and we talk about heaven, talk about kingdom of heaven, but we really, it's like most people don't even want to touch it because they don't really know what it is. They just have to have the faith that, oh well, that's what I go to if I've been good, and I just have to trust that that's what I go to. That doesn't make any sense. Well, you can say, Why are you telling me it doesn't make any sense? That's where my trust is. That's where my faith is. I know that it is. It's not your fault. I know that's where your trust is. I know that's where your faith is. And I'm desperate to give you help so that you can leave this place. Now, 3 kinds of individuals can have a possible future with the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven. One kind of individual that can have a future are those who have had deposits of souls and have started, a few minutes ago I started to tell you this remarkable design, and I've got to go back to it. This remarkable design is what a soul can become, how a soul can be deposited in a human vehicle, and those deposits are made at a time right prior to a representative of the kingdom level above human coming into the human kingdom, taking a human body and telling the truth about what the human kingdom really is, what the kingdom level above human really is, and giving that information a chance to build in those souls. Now, if a human plant has a soul, then that human plant has to find someone who is from that kingdom level, and that individual is here to try to help those get information that can lead them out of the human kingdom. So that individual is going to say, I'm from the kingdom of heaven. Oh my goodness, how blasphemous can someone be? Say, I'm from the kingdom of heaven. How can they offer anything if they don't identify who they are? They're saying, you want to go to heaven? I'm here. I'm sent here for the express purpose of helping you get to the kingdom of heaven. Now, the remarkable little process that happens, if a human plant, if an individual who has that little deposit of soul hears that voice that says, I'm from the kingdom of heaven, I can help you go to the kingdom of heaven, then that individual experiences severe pain and begins to break away from
Skin Awareness Month. Call 1-800-733-SKIN for your direct line to healthy-looking skin, complete with Vaseline Intensive Care updates, coupons, and samples.
If you're a homeowner looking to consolidate bills, call First Plus. You'll get
meant it was time for them to leave the planet. All 39 suicide victims left identification on their bodies, and now authorities are in the midst of notifying relatives. More from ABC's Lisa Salters.
The largest mass suicide in U.S. history was indeed a well-planned event. The dead were all found lying on cots and bunk beds. They wore the same clothing, the same brand new tennis shoes, their personal belongings placed carefully by their sides. Investigators say the mass suicide occurred in stages. One group of 15, followed by another, and then a final group of 9, all had instructions on how to follow a deadly recipe.
Put the medicine in and stir it. And then eat it quickly, drink this vodka mixture, which they apparently had mixed up, and then lay back and rest quietly.
Authorities say identifying the bodies was easy once they were removed from the home. The victims all left ID. The group also left behind a videotape, an attempt to explain the question they knew the world would ask. Why?
I'm really happy that I made this choice.
We're looking forward to this. We're happy and excited.
The victims were all members of a religious cult called Heaven's Gate. They believed their deaths would transport their spirits to a spaceship trailing behind the Hale-Bopp comet.
Well, we're still here. We're not for long.
Along with the tape, the group also left a letter to the news media saying, quote, by the time you receive this, we'll be gone. Several dozen of us. We came from the level above human in distant space, and we have now exited the bodies that we were wearing for our earthly task. To return to the world from whence we came, task completed. In addition to its own website, the group constructed web pages for businesses, but few of those clients knew about the bizarre motivation behind Heaven's Gate. These recruiting tapes were made by the group's leader, Marshall Applewhite, known to his followers as Doe.
We have no hesitation to leave this place, to leave the body that we have.
Back in 1975, Applewhite and a nurse he met in a psychiatric hospital co-founded a religious sect called the Two. The woman died in 1985. It is believed Applewhite was one of the dead in Rancho Santa Fe. And authorities have now confirmed that one of the 39 victims was indeed Marshall Applewhite, but no other identifications are being released at this time. Sheila?
Lisa, what do people in the community know or suspect about Applewhite and the group?
Well, remember, Heaven's Gate ran this business of constructing web pages for organizations. Of the clients that we have spoken to, they all say that Marshall Applewhite, though he was in some sense strange, he was very good at what he did. He was very good at constructing these web pages, and they were very pleased with the job that he did. A very different picture of the man that we see on these videotapes, who is talking about ascending to heaven in a UFO.
Lisa, thank you. ABC's Lisa Salters in Rancho Santa Fe this morning.
More on that subject. Since the beginning of recorded history, people have turned to the skies for signs of things to come. The Heaven's Gate cult brought together some of the more ancient beliefs with the newest technology. More on that part of the story right now from ABC's Ned Potter.
Every night in the eastern sky, Comet Hale-Bopp appears as if it were a new star. It's not the first time a celestial event has been used as a marker of some great transformation. In fact, some scholars think of the Star of Bethlehem, which signaled the birth of Jesus almost exactly 2,000 years ago. As the new millennium approaches, sights like the comet take on added meaning. It's much the same as it ever was, but at the end of the 20th century, there are new aspects to it, from the belief in UFOs to a faith in technology. Rick Bauer is an expert both on cults and computers. He says as the calendar races toward the year 2000, a cult can seem very comforting.
It brings certainty in a very uncertain world. It provides salvation in a very insecure world, and so it's very attractive.
There are, of course, parallels to mass deaths of the past. The Branch Davidians in Waco, Texas, saw themselves as preparing for a final battle between good and evil. In Switzerland and Canada, the so-called Solar Temple cult was also waiting for the millennium and the apocalypse it might bring.
In some sense, their millennium is their personal millennium, that they're ending their world and joining a new world.
One stark difference with the California group is that unlike the Branch Davidians in other cases, there was no confrontation with the outside world. Nobody trying to surround and crush them. No obvious trigger for what happened, except perhaps the millennium and a comet in the east. Ned Potter, ABC News, New York.
Coming up later in this half hour, an expert on cults peers into Heaven's Gate.
In other news, 29 years after the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King, his family is declaring James Earl Ray innocent. 29 years after the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King, his family is declaring James Earl Ray innocent. Ray is
Come. And so it really does not jive with the minds that is in it. In a sense, we're body snatchers because we came and incarnated into these human bodies, and now we're leaving these human bodies behind. I hope you don't take that as a crude joke.
That was Marshall Applewhite, who was believed to have led the group of 39 people found dead in San Diego 2 days ago. And apparently he was not alone in his beliefs. Judging from a videotape the group sent out, individuals of the group embraced the same theories and beliefs.
Joining us to explore this group and its genesis is Susan Robbins, Associate Professor of Social Work at the University of Houston, who has written about cults, and in Atlanta, Robert McCown, who has studied this group specifically. Mr. McCown, let's start with you. How did you come across these folks to begin with, and what was your take on the members?
When I was doing my BA work in political movements and radical social groups, I came across this specific group when dealing work with UFO-based contactee group, and they were very odd because they really blended a lot of elements of what most people would consider quote-unquote cults, along with other elements of different political movements. I actually went and saw them give one of their lectures in Atlanta when they came through about 3 years ago when I was doing the primary research on it. As a result, I picked up a lot of their information and literature and used it as part of my work for doing my BA. So that's pretty much how I became involved initially in learning about what they were up to and who they were.
Were these lectures simply a recruiting device?
Oh, absolutely. At the time, it seemed very apparent to me that they operated out of a stable base somewhere either in the Southwest or California maybe, or New Mexico in particular, and that occasionally when their membership was down, they would do tours, per se, where they would drive around the country, and in the case that with me, it was a Volkswagen van. They were driving around the country asking people to just join and get in the van and go with them that night after the lecture. So, yes, it very much was a recruiting tour where they would drive around giving lectures trying to see if people would join.
Let me ask both of you if you can shed some light. Professor Robbins, maybe you could go first, as to what we think this group believed, if you could summarize what the philosophy was.
Well, it's a combination of mainstream Christian philosophy, as they're portraying it in the media right now, science fiction. And I would add to that there are also some similarities with some of the human potential groups that surfaced in the 60s and 70s. And those are groups that believe very strongly in transcendence of the ego, transcendence of the physical body, and the idea that they could also experience the holy.
Robert McCowan, what would you add to that? What would you say their philosophy was?
Absolutely. The transcendence part is very crucial because I guess the metamorphosis metaphor is one that they use all of the time. They talk about transcending the body and leaving the hollow vessel shell. In fact, when they originally started out in 1975, or earlier than that actually, they were called HIM, Human Individual Metamorphosis. As for what their primary belief is, I really doubt it's hard to pin it down. In my opinion, they utilize a wide variety of beliefs to kind of maximize the audience that they can appeal to, whether or not they use Christian rhetoric in one instance or they use the UFO rhetoric in another instance. I think it's all just an attempt to get the most broadest appeal possible for people to join up with them.
And taking their own lives presumably didn't seem to bother them terribly much. We'd like to get your take after we play this videotape right now.
This is the happiest day of my life. I mean, I've been looking for this for so long. Some would probably sit here and, I mean, somebody on the other side of this camera watching this tape would probably say, what's going on? You know, you all must not have a life, or you're deluded, or you're brainwashed, or whatever the thinking might be. It's hard to tune into. From our perspective, from my perspective, this is Hudson. I mean, this is the answer to everything.
We have no fear. We're proud and looking forward to what's ahead, and we believe all our classmates feel the same way.
Actually, you all couldn't really know it unless you had done what we had done and been through what we had been through. But I think you can trust. I guess you can trust our judgment in this.
Susan, obviously they look happy. I guess a lot of folks are wondering how people can get to this point and what makes this cohesion take place.
I think because it has been explained so far in the media in terms of cults, quote unquote, along with the notion of brainwashing, that there must be some coercive power involved here. And I'm not suggesting that there might not at the beginning, but there are more subtle group dynamics that go on in all religious conversion. And I think that if we can put this in terms of religious conversion rather than mind control, it is easier to understand how when you take people who are disaffiliated to start with, who are seeking some kind of spiritual fulfillment, some kind of philosophical fulfillment, and then you give them answers that appeal to them, and those answers might keep changing, but the appeal keeps changing as well, and they buy into that appeal. It's not hard to understand how they can follow down that path.
Well, Robert, it seems obviously important to these people that they were trying to convince the outside world that they were not kooks.
Well, what you just saw in that last clip was very important because this is a current theme that you see in a lot of their discussions is the if you can't understand, it's because you haven't been where we are type of theme. And that's always constant in what they talk about. If they explain something to you and you have questions and the questions they can't answer, they say, oh, well, those questions only come from your vessel, your rational mind as it is now, and you can't understand that. One point I would like to make is what she had mentioned earlier earlier is that a group like this wouldn't have really tight cohesion if there was some active control going on. In fact, it's more likely that there are more subtle mechanisms for social control, like transcendental viewpoints, where you have to stick with a group in order to make transcendence or to ascend to the quote-unquote higher level. I mean, the term higher level alone is a good clue into the fact that they're always trying to keep you in so that you can reach just another level. And that term higher level is used throughout their literature, no matter whether or not they're talking about leaving the shell of life or talking about enlightenment, as the case may be.
All right, we want to thank both of you, Susan Robbins and Robert McCowan. Thank you very much for your insights. We're going to continue our conversation after a break.
It's the Taurus. Just when you think you've seen it all, something rolls by that is honestly different.
The beginning of the letter that the group sent out, it says, by the time you receive this, we'll be gone, several dozen of us. We come from the level above human in distant space, and we have now exited the bodies that we were wearing for our earthly task to return to the world whence we came, task completed. What do you make of that, either one of you?
Well, it seems to me that that's clearly part of the transcendent rhetoric that they use a lot. The level above human is pretty much the core of their ideology, that you have to move beyond the empty vessel. It also is kind of a demeaning of what the body is. They believe that the body is a very simple thing that we have to transcend to some higher level, though. In one question, someone wanted to ask them whether or not they would actually go into outer space, and the answerer said that it doesn't actually go into outer space, you just transcend to another place. Again, I guess the vagueness is an attempt to appeal to the most people as possible.
What do we know of Applewhite's background?
Applewhite was, I believe, Vallee says, and this is Jacques Vallee in his original book where he's talked about Applewhite, said that he was the son of a Presbyterian minister, that he had some background, but also had a psychological disorder which hospitalized him for a while, where he met the other person, otherwise known as Peep of Bo and Peep, or also known as the other of the two, and she was working there at the hospital when they met.
Professor Robbins, you had some thoughts about what this group, what the message might be to parents who are concerned about this kind of thing. First of all, is it likely that this group is gone now, or does it still exist?
Well, with its leader being gone, I'm not so certain that they would have the ability to convert people in the same way that they did. What I would say to parents is that, well, you might not be able to keep your children from joining groups like this, that the best thing that you can do is keep open communication with your child. Because most adults, and we're talking about, well, even though I use the term children, we're talking about adults, typically in their late teens, early 20s, most of them do leave these groups all on their own within the first year or two. And I think it's important for parents to leave the entree back into the home and back into the family.
Okay. Susan Robbins, thank you very much. Robert McCowan, we appreciate both of your insights and your information.
You're watching World News Now.
Jane Seymour is Dr. Quinn.
Investigators found 39 members of a mysterious computer cult, men and women, from teenagers to senior citizens, all dead in an apparent mass suicide.
This seemed to be very well planned. I mean, they all had their identification in their pocket. The house was immaculate. All these boys were just lying on the bed with this sheet over top of them. The rest of the house was all clean.
In this exclusive neighborhood, the group had rented this mansion since last October, living a Spartan lifestyle in spotless surroundings.
They would fast sometimes for, I think it was 40 days, and just drink liquids. And
it gets more bizarre. Investigators removed much computer hardware, which group members used to log on the internet and create home pages, calling themselves Higher Source. Recently, they had sent a videotaped suicide message.
Each of the individual members that committed suicide each took to the camera and explained that they were excited about the next move in what they considered to be an ongoing life.
Even more bizarre, if that's possible, the group imagined in death they would rendezvous with a Hale-Bopp comet and a UFO behind it that would take them to paradise.
And that they believed that there was a UFO hiding behind it approaching Earth, and that they wanted to leave this Earth and join that UFO at that time.
39 people dead under one roof, leaving a mystery that remains very alive. Mark Strassman, NBC News, Rancho Santa Fe, California.
That mass suicide in Rancho Santa Fe has left many of us now wondering how their belief could become so powerful that it led them to such an act.
Part of that answer may be found on the World Wide Web. Monica Robbins now read over the material on the Heaven's Gate webpage and tries to decipher what it all means.
Now, the reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization, because it's about to be recycled, but because of where that finds us, where that finds you, where that finds those who would judge us.
They thought this world was ending, being recycled, and only those who believed in what they called the next level could go on to the kingdom of heaven. They thought their salvation was in a UFO traveling behind the Hale-Bopp comet. They thought it would relieve them of their human form and turn them into genderless individuals in service full-time for whatever need the level above human has for them. And the tools they use are spacecrafts. But the UFO didn't stop, and in the last few days they realized they had to shed their flesh themselves. They considered it a test of faith, of hating this world, even the flesh body, to the extent to be willing to leave it without any proof of the next level's existence. Doe, the 66-year-old leader, is thought to be among the victims. He told them he is the Messiah, an extraterrestrial living in a human form, just like Jesus was 2,000 years ago. He said Jesus was an alien too. The materials twist Christianity and say extraterrestrials have the power to give souls to humans. Doe is no stranger to cults. He indicates he was part of the UFO cult in 1975, and over the last 2 decades continued giving updates to those who would listen to his prophecy, and at least 39 people who followed him in death. Monica Robbins, News Channel 4, Columbus.
What's even more disturbing is police aren't sure how many people may have been recruited through the website, or if any more people across the country may have committed suicide in an attempt to join the Hale-Bopp comet.
Back here at home, a high-speed chase with police ends with one man dead, another in critical condition this morning. This is what's left of the suspect's car. Not much. Police say that they were responding to a burglary on West.
This is Steve Saunders. Now back to you.
Thanks, Steve, for that report. Now, the Akron area sister of one of the bombing victims won a slot to watch the trial by closed-circuit television. We'll have more on the trial tonight at 5. Well, in other news, 2 men are reportedly ready to buy the California mansion where 39 cult members died last week. A Rancho Santa Fe real estate agent says the 2 have offered to pay more than $1 million. They're hoping to bring closure to the cult episode. Meanwhile, autopsies show the cult members died from suffocation and drug overdoses. The medical examiner says cult leader Marshall Applewhite did not have cancer.
The autopsy had demonstrated no visual sign of cancer in Marshall Applewhite's liver or other organs.
Now, the Heaven's Gate members reportedly killed themselves because they thought Applewhite had the disease. Well, back in Columbus, Ohio State's search to replace basketball coach.
I think at least through tomorrow afternoon.
All right. Thank you, Brett.
And our top story on this Friday morning, there are now new details surrounding that bizarre mass suicide case in Southern California. Police discovered one victim among the 39 may have an Ohio connection. Margot Kim joins us now live from the newsroom with more on this continuing investigation. Margot, do police know the name of this Ohio victim yet?
Well, Jill, police are not yet releasing that name, but we should be able to get it for you later today. They are, however, telling us that it is a 39-year-old woman, and she is indeed from the state of Ohio. Investigators are getting that information from driver's licenses that were found alongside the bodies, and they are using those licenses to now identify them. And from that information, we also know that now 21 of the 39 victims are women. Most of the members of the Heaven's Gate group were found also with pieces of paper with a suicide recipe written on them. them. The victims apparently followed that recipe by mixing pudding or applesauce with the drug phenobarbital. They then washed it down with alcohol. The apparent leader of the group, Marshall Applewhite, was also found among the dead. His involvement with the group goes back to the 1970s when he promised his followers celestial bliss. Applewhite's sister speaks about her brother's ability to influence his followers.
Because he has so much charisma, he can convince others of almost anything.
To commit suicide?
Mm-hmm.
You don't find that surprising?
Oh yes, surprising, but I can see it happening, but it's still surprising that many people could be duped into doing something like that.
Louise Wynett also says her brother felt God led him to start a group that would someday join a spaceship that would take them to heaven. And the worldwide website for Heaven's Gate says that apparently a spaceship was behind the Hale-Bopp comet, and this was the sign that the group was apparently waiting for. Also, Jill, investigators say they found packed suitcases alongside the victim's body.
So bizarre. Thank you, Margot, for that report. We know, of course, how it all ended in Southern California for those cult members, but what we don't know is how their beliefs could lead them to suicide.
Part of that answer may be found on the World Wide Web. Monica Robbins read over the materials on the Heaven's Gate website yesterday and tries to decipher what it all means.
Now, the reason this is such an interesting time is not only because we're on the threshold of the end of this civilization, because it's about to be recycled, but because of where that finds us, where that finds you, where that finds those who would judge us.
They thought this world was ending, being recycled, and only those who believed in what they called the next level could go on to the kingdom of heaven. They thought their salvation was in a UFO traveling behind the Hale-Bopp comet. They thought it would relieve them of their human form and turn them into genderless individuals in service full-time for whatever need the level above human has for them. And the tools they use are spacecrafts. But the UFO didn't stop, and in the last few days they realized they had to shed their flesh themselves. They considered it a test of faith, of hating this world, even the flesh body, to the extent to be willing to leave it without any proof of the next level's existence. Doe, the 66-year-old leader, is thought to be among the victims. He told them he is the Messiah, an extraterrestrial living in a human form, just like Jesus was 2,000 years ago. He said Jesus was an alien too. The materials twist Christianity and say extraterrestrials have the power to give souls to humans. Doe is no stranger to cults. He indicates he was part of the UFO cult in 1975, and over the last 2 decades continued giving updates to those who would listen to his prophecy, and at least 39 people who followed him in death. Monica Robbins, News Channel 4, Columbus.
What's even more disturbing is that police may have no idea how many people have been recruited through the website or if any more suicides may have taken place yesterday across the country in support.
Here at home, a high-speed chase with police ends with one man dead, another
really like nothing changed, actually.
Christopher Reeve conquers new challenges as a director. Get inspired on the next Access Hollywood.
Tonight at 7:30 on NBC4.
This is Extra's coverage of cult madness. Now, from San Diego, here's Brad Good.
Their mansion in Rancho Santa Fe became a tomb for 39 members of the Heaven's Gate cult. Those lost souls were moved here to the San Diego coroner's office. But Libby, Southern California is just the end of this suicide drama.
Brad, the cult's race for the stars picked up speed 1,000 miles up the coast in Walport, Oregon. It was an eerie early stop in their campaign to reach another world. Rick Schwartz reports.
It was just a logging town on the Oregon coast, but Walport had a reputation as a place where UFO believers could feel at home. Marshall Applewhite and Bonnie Lou Nettles, then known as Bo and Peep and the Two, thought it would be a perfect place to recruit followers.
There's a culture here that's really, below and beyond things.
Aaron Greenberg was one of the Walport residents drawn to the meeting September 14th, 1975, by this flyer, stapled up all over this one-stoplight town. It said, Two individuals say they are about to leave the human level and literally, physically, enter the next evolutionary level in a spacecraft, UFO, within months.
They had some hold on the audience. They could weave some sort of enchanted spell over the people. And I was part of that enchantment, basically, at that point.
Even at that very first meeting back in September of 1975, here in the second-floor conference room at the Bayshore Inn, there were ominous signs. Bo and Peep handed out this 3-page manifesto that made clear reference to leaving this life. The doors of the next kingdom are open, it says. Some may pass the tests and enter that next kingdom. Why not you? In a conference room that rented for just $50 with a view of the Alsea Bridge as a backdrop, Bo and Peep drew a crowd of about 100. Pretty big for a town that had only 700 residents back then. And out of those 100, about 15 to 20 packed up and left Waldport to follow Bo and Peep.
You can't tell from the video the hold, the magnetic, the deep charismatic power of the man.
I guess I believed it enough to try it, to see if it was real.
Robert Rubin gave away his A-frame house and 10 acres in the woods outside Waldport to follow Marshall Applewhite through 6 states. 5 months later, he changed his mind after he broke Applewhite's rules and stayed with friends in Arizona.
They were loving, nice people, and I realized that's the reason we're here. It's not to go to outer space, or it's just, I kind of went off the trip at that point.
Robert hitchhiked back to Waldport, got his home back, and today holds a job at Ray's Food Place. As for Aaron Greenberg, he too got his fill of the cult. Aaron came back to this slow-paced town along the rocky Oregon coast. It's a town that wasn't really shaken by news of 39 suicides in California or their connection to Waldport.
A little excitement, you know.
John Swanson, a Waldport man who joined a separate cult and eventually defected, said this town is not a cult recruiting ground, and he thinks the suicides happened in the appropriate place.
It's not strange. They're in California. What do you expect?
With 7,000 residents, Waldport has grown since 1975. Back then, the money came from logging and fishing. Now it comes from tourism. Locals don't think that meeting at the Bayshore all those years ago was any big deal.
That was your flower power, free love, it's Erie, and they were just coming off from everywhere, you know, and everybody was looking for something free, I guess.
That was the feeling of a lot of local people at the time, that it was all just a big scam. We all kind of joked about it, and there was a sense of anticipation. When is the spaceship's going to come?
Thought they were a bunch of kooks.
That's right. You said the word, yeah.
Ron Sutton was a chief criminal investigator for Lincoln County back in 1975. When he heard accusations that Bo and Peep were conning people, he checked them out. So in your investigation in the sheriff's department, you never found that Marshall and Bonnie took money?
No.
Children?
No.
Houses?
No.
Property of any sort?
No.
From any of these people?
No.
So it seems Bo and Peep didn't do any real harm to Waldport. In fact, some, like Robert Rubin, remember their philosophy and wish them well.
We needed to go from the caterpillar into the cocoon, so then the next level we would be the butterflies.
You think they're butterflies today?
I hope so.
Well, while Bo and Peep held their meeting at the Bayshore Inn, the cult business wasn't booming for them just yet. They had to stay at a campsite 17 miles upriver from Waldport. Well, you heard how uncomfortable Marshall Applewhite was with his sexuality. Next, the question of castration. Extra examines why Doe and 5 other men in the cult were sexually mutilated.
We pressed Doe to give us the option of castration.
H&R Block works to get you every penny you have coming.
The discovery of 39 bodies wasn't the only surprise from the Heaven's Gate cult. Few grieving relatives could have suspected what autopsies revealed about some of the victims.
But perhaps one of the most shocking revelations for family members was to hear that several of the men in the cult were castrated. It was apparently part of the commitment to celibacy and their leaders' beliefs. According to the coroner, it was a choice these men made long before they chose to take their lives. Phil Schumann reports.
This is the answer to everything.
The images from the farewell tape, cult members who looked the same, dressed the same, thought sex was impure. 6 of the men, including Doe, chose to battle sexual thoughts with castration, having their testicles removed.
Here, they don't need a number of things that are used in this kingdom level because it's significantly more refined. There are no males, there are no females.
Leader Doe said on the other side of their journey, sex would be obsolete, but some say Doe's motives, however couched in religious fervor, were entirely a symbol of his own sexual demons.